Yeah. I think it's so fascinating. I'm excited to read this. That's very relevant to my own personal journey and a lot of, not just my female friends, all of different types of friends, having these conversations. It's like, yes, we were sold this idea of it, and growing up, this is the goal, right? And this is how you know you've got commitment. Oh, and there's financial benefits or whatever. But that has changed, and it's not necessarily financially beneficial for anybody. It's interesting. It is and it isn't. You know, it is and it isn't. It's just not necessarily the strongest argument for it.
Well, it does two different things, right? One, it kind of puts you at risk, right? Because now you're binding yourself and your finances. I mean, there are ways to protect yourself, like having prenups, postnups, also like keeping your premarital money and assets separate so that if you do get divorced, they have no ownership over that.
Yeah.
But there's also something to really be said about the power of doubling your money and like the power of pooling your money to then be able to take, higher risk investments, to be able to like afford a house together sooner than if you were trying to do that on your own. Like there is a lot of benefits to going at the world as a unit.
Yeah.
And I think it's this catch-22 thing where like the studies are like married people are happier and wealthier than unmarried people. But then it's also like, but are people that are happier and wealthier more able to get married in the first place?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
They're in a position where they have their life sort of lined up for that. And so they're still happier. They were already
And they're still
happier.
wealthier.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people feel like they're not able to get married. It's actually kind of become this classist issue where it's like, oh, I'm not financially stable. I can't afford a big wedding, or I can't afford to buy a home or have children, and therefore I'm not ready for marriage. Where I think a lot of times that gets in people's way, when actually like being married, like we were talking about, you can pool those resources, you can get that emotional support, you can do all of these things that would then actually maybe make it easier for you to achieve those goals. And so we've kind of like made marriage like too hard to achieve in society in a way for the people that want it, at least.
Right. Yeah. Because there are these sort of like markers laid out of like, here's what you do before marriage, here's what you do after it. And we're in this position, like you're saying, where like, well, you can sort of become a team and work towards those pre-marriage goals together if you need to, or sort of figure out what works the best for you and learn the lessons that boomer marriages maybe have taught people.
Well, speaking of learning lessons, I don't know. I'm pivoting to the news.
Oh, lesson learned.
I liked the pivot.
Thank you. Specifically, Hurricane Milton.
Yeah, we're recording this Thursday, so people listening to this will know more than we do. They're assessing the damage from Hurricane Milton, which hit Florida on Wednesday night. From what I saw, it looked like a cold front may have weakened it as it hit, so it wasn't the worst case scenario that we thought was possible, but it still did quite a bit of damage. As of right now, at least 7 dead and millions left without power. And of course, this comes right on the heels of Hurricane Helene about a week and a half ago, and there's a ton of misinformation that has been spreading around the X and the other places.
Probably mainly the X.
To the point that FEMA had to put out like a fact sheet, which I'm sure will convince people, because of course FEMA, of course the people doing the thing would say that the thing isn't happening. And we can go through some of these bits of misinformation and what and who is behind them.
It's really hard to sift through what's true and what's not anyway on the Twitter. But there's a lot of blowback or whatever from people saying like, see, this is the media sensationalizing. It wasn't so bad. First off, it was quite bad. Again, on the heels of Helene, a catastrophic storm. And we don't know. That's the whole point of what we're experiencing, this moment in time. Is like, we don't actually know how it's going to hit and how it's going to land. Would you prefer people to have not been warned? I also understand how hard it is to be evacuating and the expense of it, the stress of it, and needing to leave work in the midst of in the middle of the week and haul your family and pay exorbitant prices for gas and the stress. But again, what about the opposite? So it's a tricky balance, but then we get this media, this attention on Twitter where there's all this misinformation floating around, and then nobody trusts anybody. And I think that you can point to the fact that, I mean, again, I'm sure that maybe we will, maybe we won't hear of more casualties. I sure hope not. but you can guarantee that it would have been worse if people hadn't evacuated.
Yeah. Well, it's very depressing, actually, sort of how people prepare for things and learn about things and consume things and just sort of view the world as like all the weathermen are in on it now to like trick you and get you. And like, I mean, we'll go through the specific claims about like the weather machines or whatever, but it's just like, it's a real thing that's happening in reality, and people are dying and like all this, like there's all this damage, and like it's just so I find it hard to sift through of like, are you being malicious, or are you the victim of somebody else who is malicious and being like spreading misinformation or like getting you into some sort of conspiracy minded thing? And it's just very frustrating to sort of see everything and just be like, it's unsustainable. And in the same way of like with climate change generally, you see a lot of people like, well, it's not as bad as they said it would be, or like, well, if it doesn't happen, then they were wrong or whatever. It's like, well, if you predict a thing is going to happen, maybe it won't be as extreme, but also you're doing things to mitigate that. And so it's going to be less, like in an ideal world, it is less extreme because we're doing things to mitigate that. And so you get this mindset of like, well, they were wrong. No, they were right. We just did something about it.
It's so sad to me that like we should all be celebrating this cold front instead of being like, told you so. You know, like,
right.
It's just like created this environment where like when actually a good thing ended up happening, it's like, well, that means you've been lying to us the whole time. Like, it's like everything is taken as bad faith.
Yes. And sort of it tiered off in a way where like climate change, obviously, like it's a hoax, you think, and that's not fine, but whatever. That's just how it is now. But now it's like weather stuff. Where I mean, I don't know if we'll get to it. There's a cat turd tweet. I'm so sorry for bringing up cat turd, but it's just this tweet about like, first they said 135 miles per hour, then they said 150 miles per hour, and it's just like a list of a range of like 130 to 160 miles per hour winds, and he's like, I'm never watching the weather again. They're giving you a range of like, you can watch all of that and go, oh, high winds. They were right about that. It changes every once in a while, but the information is that there are high winds out. Like,
you didn't learn in 4th grade that wind is constant. It's one speed always.
I know. I know. But like, no, it's just like very frustrating to see that and be like, are you malicious, or are you a victim somehow, or are you just a stupid liar? Like, I don't know what the situation is.
Probably all of it, but
probably all of it.
I do think there's a sincerity for a lot of people.
Yes, it's very upsetting.
And part of it is the amount of misinformation that circulates around, and we'll get into some of this. And so people are following people that present themselves as knowing what they're talking about, and it's really hard. I know they got that blue check. Banged on this drum a lot over the past couple of years, but it's so hard.
It's so much worse too. I don't know if you saw it. There's like the AI stuff is like really close. There's a fake news report that was like filtered some CNN article or whatever, and it's like a woman in a space doing the news, but it's not. It's an AI video, and it's like really close, and it's gonna get so much worse. People are gonna believe the stupidest, wrongest things in the world, and then they're gonna be elected to Congress.
People still are talking about how Maui was some sort of psyop, some sort of direct energy targeted attack, and they believe it. They believe it.
They gave Maui Havana syndrome,
and it's just gonna. And so I have seen some people saying like, just like in Hawaii. Like, come on, guys.
You mean the weather?
Well, okay. There's a couple categories here, and I'm not going to go through all the specific granular things. There's 2 big ones I want to bring up, and one is one that Trump has spread, and one is, well, it's a Marjorie Taylor Greene / everyone else thing.
Mm-hmm, an ex-blue thing is basically her. Yeah.
So the first one is a Trump one, and he's just doing it because it's political election time, and he's been going on rants, and you basically have to piece together what he's saying because it's Trump.